60% of the problem we go through in South Africa are caused by us.
We all know this, that we do have a lot of issues as a country. So it's only fair and it's only right that South African citizens do benefit from their public infrastructure.
60% of the problem we go through in South Africa are caused by us.
Okay.
Nigerians are going to hate me for it. Look at the one going on in Cape Town now. It's all over the news. You came to a country, you're not properly documented. You're driving a car worth 2 million something. The one going on in Cape Town now, those are Nigerians. You see what I'm saying? So when I say 60% of the problem we go through, I know Nigerians are going to hate me for this, but it's the truth. 60% of the problem we go through in this country are caused in South Africa are caused by us. South African has their own role where they play, how they do their own thing, but 60% of the problem Nigerians go through in South Africa is caused by Nigeria.
Okay.
So all I'm saying is, if there's a way we can get everybody documented, so we can be able to point Mr. A from Mr. B, we can be able to hold Mr. A accountable for what Mr. A did, not to blame Mr. B for not doing what Mr. A did. If there's a way we can get documented, and I'm pleading to the South African government, it is not a do or die thing. I'm pleading to them, if there's a way they can make that possible for us. I'm telling you, so many Nigerians will come out in mass to be documented. I personally, I would go to different provinces to tell people, go to a certain place, go to this place, you will be properly documented. I personally will do that, so that everybody can be held accountable. If you want to deport somebody, you know who you're deporting.
Okay.
You can have the record of who you are deporting. So at this point, I want to thank you. I want to appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to come to your platform. I hope I would be able to make time one of these days to come again. And to my South African brothers, I'm sorry that I don't have much time. I need to go fetch my son from school before I pay a penalty for fetching him late. I wish I would have more time to, talk about this, because after I fetch him from school, daddy duty calls me, right? So I wish I have more time to be able to dialogue, to be able to have a responsible conversation with you guys. I wish I had more time. Thank you guys for having me, and may the good Lord continue to bless you. South Africa, I'm telling anybody that cares to listen, South Africa is a beautiful country. Forget whatever that is happening. South Africa is a beautiful country. South Africa is a beautiful country. South Africans have the problem, the difference between Nigeria and South Africa is Nigeria is richer than South Africa in terms of GDP, but South Africa has a system that works. Nigeria doesn't have a system that works. Yes, there are some sections of the government that are corrupt. Same thing happens in Nigeria. Africa, corruption is like the order of the day now. So, but in all and all, the truth be told, forget whatever anybody is saying. And majority of all those people are using it to get political relevance. Majority of all people doing these things, like the two Zulu guys, never on X, if not for this whole match and match thing, never on X, they would never have a conversation to have a sit down with the president of the country. But because of those things they are doing, they get relevant from it. Usually before now, nobody knows them. Nobody knows Jacinta, only when he started this match and match. So there are some political relevant or political benefits behind all these things that is going on. I've understand it, I've watched it, and I've understand it. Aside from all those things, South Africa is like I'm lost of words. South Africa is a beautiful country. South Africa is a place that you can call home.
Okay.
South Africa is a country that you can call home. South Africa is a beautiful country. From my own point of view, I don't know from any other person's point of view. Okay. But from what I've seen, from what I've experienced.
The South Africans for Constitutional Reform are calling for amendments to one of the country's phrases of the preamble, that South Africans or South Africa belongs to all who live in it, contained in the organization's submissions for the annual review of the Constitution. It says this phrase should be that the country belongs to its legal citizens. Here to tell us more about their submissions that include resource reservation and property ownership, joined by Ntombenhle Mhlongo, who is the National Coordinator for the South Africans for Constitutional Reform. Ntombenhle, good to have you, and thank you so much for coming in.
It's a pleasure, Professor. Thank you for having me.
Now, I mentioned one of your core demands is amending the preamble. We'll come back to that, but you also are looking at socioeconomic restrictions, restricting non-citizens from accessing state benefits, including free public health care, education, social grants, resource reservation, specifically reserving South African mineral resources primarily to benefit the citizens, and, of course, Section 25, the issue of the property ownership. Let's circle to the amendment of the preamble, for example. I mean, what is the fundamental primary goal for changing this historical preamble text?
Well, first off, I think it's very important that the need for amendment is not necessarily exclusionary, but more so it reinforces the relationship between the states and its citizens. And South Africa is not the only country where it's such a law or such a section in the Constitution is stated. So it's not necessarily a matter of excluding certain people or infringing on certain human rights, but it's more so a need to reserve where situations where resources are finite, meaning we do not have enough. For example, let's say South Africa has maybe 100 houses available from government. It's more so the prioritization of South African citizens when it comes to state resources, when it comes to public resources, from healthcare to schooling to housing, of which it's currently not happening. Hence, we are seeing a lot of South Africans coming forward, bringing their voices forward that they feel unseen by their government. But this, for SACR, is also a display of how much South African citizens really believe in their constitution and also believe in their governance and believe in their democracy. But like I said, let's say there's 100 houses in South Africa. Wouldn't it only be fair that if there is a list of people that need housing, that South Africans who by law are the ones who are participating in shaping the future of the country via voting, via taxes, it is only fair that those people be considered. And it is not something that is unfounded. I think Section 36 speaks of the limitation of rights, where it is constitutional and where it does not infringe on anyone.
But why do you believe that that particular phrase itself is the one that's bringing about this vulnerability to the point that it is misrepresented? We end up sharing our resources that are finite with others.
But it's not just that it's misrepresented, but we've had court cases where NGOs have gone and lobbied to say that this is what the preamble of the Constitution says. So we cannot then ignore and turn a blind eye. Just because something is stated as this, how the law is interpreted matters. So something can be stated as simple as it is, but for the mere fact that it does not, our Constitution does not explicitly state the relationship or the rights of its citizens, because all constitutions, in fact, there's a lot of constitutions that we look into and where we see that the state or the Constitution specifically differentiates between a citizen and someone who's a non-citizen. So it's not something that is meant to infringe on anyone's rights, but it's more so calling for the South African government or calling for South African public resources, which are quite scarce, if we all know. In fact, we all know this, that we do have a lot of issues as a country. So it's only fair and it's only right that South African citizens do benefit from their public infrastructure. But I do have to note that this is something that South African citizens themselves, it's not an SACR thing. We are just a channel between the public.
So talk to us about that. I mean, people might question that and say, well, what evidence do you have that you're not representing a particular political faction or you're representing ordinary citizens?
Okay, I think we had maybe a month or less to when the Parliamentary Review Committee called for South Africans to make their submissions, of which let's just acknowledge this first, that not a lot of South Africans, ordinary poor South Africans, are not aware of the fact that the Constitution can be amended. Let's start there. And government, I'm not necessarily pointing fingers here, but we've never really heard of the Constitution being amendment. I don't think I'm the only South African citizen who has never actually even heard the call for the Constitution for South African citizens to submit their reviews. So for the first time, I think for the second time since last year, SACR was founded on the basis that there is a gap. There is a gap in how the South African Constitution relates and shows a sense of responsibility to its citizens. So I think that's where SACR came in, and we had about 135, more than 135 submissions this year, which show more than 135,000 submissions this year, of which we also still feel that because of the platform and the medium that we used to collect those submissions, which was a digital form, we still feel that there's
how did you filter that? It was digital. How did you filter this public feedback to come up with this final document?
Like, for example, we had, like I said, 135,000. I wish I had a diagram to actually show you, Putel, but I'm gonna be showing, I don't know, the numbers. We had a lot of numbers from Gauteng, KZN, and we've actually done the stats where we are looking at the male to female ratio. Our average submission age was 38.9, meaning the average South African that participated is 38.9 of age. But we had a lot more submissions from the younger generation, and the percentages were quite high, and to the oldest of us. So, which really told us that South Africans do want to participate in their democracy, because a lot of us, we've been, I don't know if I can say that we've been trained or conditioned to think that the only way you can participate in governance is via your vote, of which SACR is saying even our constitution allows for public submissions, and we are saying that public submissions mustn't just be a tick box exercise. It must be something that truly and honestly brings about value and worth to South African citizens, and we want South African citizens to feel heard, to feel affirmed, and to feel confident in their constitution, and to feel seen by their constitution.
I'll circle back to that, because you went to court because previously you made submissions and you thought you were not being heard. But let's stay with the submission, this one, because I don't want to extend to all of them, because all of them would have particular implications. Did you look at the change in this preamble and its constitutional integration, and whether or not it affects other things? For example, I'm talking here off memory, right? There was a whole process of trying to change Section 25 from expropriation without compensation to expropriation with nil compensation, and the wording, the text itself was a point of argument and discussion, right? How does changing the text integrate into the rest of the Constitution? For example, would you find that it might impact the Bill of Rights in Chapter 2?
It seamlessly integrates, Pututabo. You know why I say it seamlessly integrates? Section 19 of the Constitution already limits rights to voting, to electing government official, to be elected as a government official, to the South African Parliament or any other South African, position of power, if I can put it that way, governance. So that on its own is also a reflection of the relationship between the Constitution and its citizen. It does not necessarily infringe on human rights. However, it emphasizes that there is a distinguishing factor, or there is distinction between people who participate in shaping the law, in shaping governance of the country. And it only makes natural sense, as per the Constitution, that those people should receive priority. I think I'm looking at it from an angle of if we say that girls shouldn't go to school, it should be South African citizens that live with the implication of that. You see that? So if we as South Africans are in fact lawmakers, are in fact in governance, and I think it's only fair that those people who in government will be looking out for the best interests of their own kids. It doesn't make sense that we be governed by people who are removed from the lived realities of South Africans. So I think that's where it comes from. And also, like I said, Section 19 already limits the right of voting to South Africans. So we are actually calling for the Constitution to actually have uniformity and have a trickle-down effect when it comes to governance of the country.
So, I mean, others would come and say, look, if we look at, for example, at social cohesion, what you are calling for is unconstitutional, because instead of promoting social cohesion, it creates social division.
It's not necessarily social divisions, Bututabo. Like I said, we are not necessarily calling that people's rights be abolished. We're not saying people must die at hospital, doors. South Africa has literally one of the greatest, one of those countries that really uphold, human rights. Because we are very well known by our accessibility to education, free education, affordable education, accessibility to healthcare. But however, we are saying that South Africans feel the need to be prioritized where resources are finite. Where there is limited resources, we are calling for South Africans to come first. South Africans are saying they feel they should come first.
How do you then, I mean, I've put this to your organization before, how do you integrate your proposals, for example, to international treaty obligations that we have?
We are aware of international treaties, Bututabo, and most of what our constitution is currently speaking to, international treaties do not limit South Africa to have their own internal processes, and it does not limit for a country. All countries do this, Bututabo. They allow for a distinguishing between citizens and non-citizens. It's not something that is uniquely South African. The UK do it. The prioritization of welfare and state resources is for UK citizens first, then non-citizens.
Yeah. What are your suggestions? I mean, as we part, property ownership. I mean, this has been a big issue.
Yes.
And people have taken government to court, say, don't mess with this.
No. I think, Bututabo, it is very important for us as SACR to be very open and also to realize that we, as a people of South Africa, even though for example, we received more than 135,000 submissions. And from those 135,000 submissions, I'm sorry, I'm so parched. Yeah, we broke them down to 17 submissions in total. And of those 17 submissions in total, we made sure that whatever we were hearing consistently from the data, because our form was very open-ended, I don't know if you saw it, but it was very open-ended. We did have options for you to select, but also we did also have an area where you could literally type down your whole paragraph as to what would you like to change. But we did notice that South Africans are against the age discrimination, the 35. They are in fact, they are voicing out their concerns around the age discrimination. They're voicing out the concerns around housing affordability. And I think with the recent ruling in Cape Town, it does show that there is an issue with how inaccessibility of housing to ordinary South Africans. Yeah. There is an issue of people from other countries having a bigger currency than South Africans. And it still boils down to the same thing. There must be a protection of South Africans in everything that we do. And South Africans are calling for that in their constitution. And it's not unconstitutional for them to call for that. Other countries do it. Namibia does it. Yeah. In fact, we have a lot of countries all over the world that have such an open constitution that allows for human rights to coexist with South African citizens' rights.
Got you.
Okay.
Give you a chance to drink your water. Stay right.
Thank you.
All right. That's Ntombenhle Mhlongo there. She is the coordinator for the South Africans for Constitutional Reform. Well, we've got, of course, responses that are continuing to come in to one of our developing stories this afternoon. President Cyril Ramaphosa has now issued a statement on the passing of the country's two sporting stars. President Cyril Ramaphosa mourns the passing of rising sports stars. The president has expressed his deep condolences at the passing of two outstanding young sportsmen, Bafana Bafana and Mamelodi Sundowns midfielder Jaden Adams and former South African rugby under-18 prop Luqobo Makwedini. President Ramaphosa offers his deep condolences to the families of Jaden Adams and to Luqobo Makwedini, who have passed away at the age of 25 and 20 respectively. The president's thoughts are with Jaden's teammates and Bafana Bafana and Mamelodi Sundowns, as well as Luqobo Makwedini's former SA under-18 teammates and his club colleagues in France. President Ramaphosa says it is particularly tragic that we are suffering the loss of two outstanding young athletes at a time when our nation continues to immerse itself in the FIFA World Cup tournament, as well as the Springboks and Springbok women matches against Scotland and the USA Eagles in Pretoria today. We are grateful for the joy and victories Jaden and Luqobo have given us and their teams as they lived their dreams and held South Africa's name high on the scoreboard.